Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Film Odyssey podcast, where me and my brother trek through cinema on a quest to find the best film ever made. This season, we begin our journey by counting down the AFI Top 100 Best Films of All Time. And this week, we're watching 12 Angry Men. So, Randy, this movie's title kind of sounds like a gay porn, right?
Shut the fuck up.
I'm sorry. That's the joke everyone makes about this movie, right?
There's no way. I don't believe that for a second.
I mean, it's the meme, though.
Okay, dude.
Okay, but 12 Angry Men.
But 12 Angry Men, yes. It's such an amazing movie. It still holds up after all this time. It's such a simple premise, but
it's
man,
a simple
so
movie,
good.
too. This movie, on paper, should not work. We're going to have 12 dudes in a room. They're just going to talk. They're never going to leave the room. They're just going to yell at each other. No flashy camera stuff. We don't even see, like, out the window very much. But it's a masterpiece.
Yes. It is a masterpiece. It's so good. All the characters work so well together. Even the ones that don't have very many lines, you know, it's just
when they talk, it fucking matters.
Well, it matters, right? And you, like, all these little inferences, like, when they change their vote, you know, it, like, gives you an idea of, like, what kind of person they are and, like, you know, why they changed it and, like, personal background, you know, even though it's not actually there, but it's there.
It's there.
It's there, you know? The story this movie tells goes beyond just, like, what happens on screen, because it lets you know, like, little background things about all the characters, but only through, like, inference, you know?
And the other thing is, you don't even know any of their names. They're just Juror 1, Juror 2, Juror 3. And every time they open their mouths, you learn a little bit more about them.
Mm-hmm.
Even how they respond to other people, and even when people insult them, you learn something.
Yes.
It's the thing where it's like, in a court, you know, I'm not seeing the whole truth, but I'm getting a part of the truth, and you're building the characters up in your mind. It's, Kino. But, yeah. Should I just start telling everybody what this movie's about?
Yeah.
Alright, everyone. So, this movie, the plot. Inside a hot jury room in New York City, 12 men decide the fate of an impoverished 18-year-old boy charged with the murder of his father. For the boy to be sent to the electric chair, a unanimous vote must be reached, and it almost is, except for one juror who refuses to bend under the unrelenting pressure until the case is truly discussed and the boy's guilt can be proven beyond a reasonable doubt.
And
like,
spoiler alert, he's found not guilty.
Right?
Unanimously.
Unanimously. But we don't even know if he was innocent.
We don't.
We just know that there was enough doubt to say he wasn't completely guilty.
The doubt, you could say, was reasonable.
It's a fascinating movie.
It is a fascinating movie. And
Are you with Henry Fonda from the beginning?
Yeah. I mean, that's just kind of the person I am, you know? You can only know the, like, extent of your own ignorance. You can't know things for sure, you know? Like, so for me, like, reasonable doubt is, like, a pretty easy thing to obtain. I would be the Henry Fonda person being like, well, wait a minute, you know, we can at least talk about it.
We got 2 eyewitnesses. We got the weapon. He has a shitty alibi.
We have the weapon, and then Henry Fonda takes out the knife and stabs it on the table as like the big, huge, like, oh shit moment.
There's like 15 oh shit moments in
here. Yeah, but that's
right?
the biggest one.
That is the biggest one.
They make the biggest thing out of that one. And it's such a good moment in the movie. Everybody's like all up on their feet being like, whoa, what is this?
That's the one that changes the initial votes, right?
Well, not the initial votes. He gets the old guy on first, and then that happens.
Yeah.
And then it like gets a couple more people, you know?
Just a little bit more. But yeah, that's one of those things where it's weird because it's all in one room, and it's really hard for me to break down the flow of the story when you think about it, because it's just a long debate.
It's a long debate, and like all the different pieces of evidence of the case get brought out over time and scrutinized, and the characters kind of like pick at it one by one, all the little details of the like case, you know. It like this movie basically gets played out to where it's like you get both a courtroom drama and a murder mystery all in one.
It's really true. I think this is called one of, if not the greatest courtroom dramas of all time.
It doesn't even take place in a courtroom.
It doesn't. It takes place in a jury room.
Mm-hmm. And where the actual cases are decided.
Exactly. I keep coming back to this. Like, on paper, this movie should not be as good as it is. Like, when you look at it, it looks like a TV show, or it looks like a TV episode.
Or it looks like it could be like a stage drama.
Exactly. Actually, so here's an interesting point. Going into the whole production and history of this film. So this was written by Reginald Rose. He wrote the screenplay for 12 Angry Men and was initially produced for television. And it was broadcasted for CBS on Studio One, which was this kind of like anthology variety drama TV show.
Okay.
It's where Rod Serling got his start before he started doing Twilight Zone. So this comes out in 1954, and the TV production is so successful they want a film adaptation. So Sidney Lumet, who at the time was only a TV director, was brought on. Yes, this is his first feature film.
Wow.
First feature film, and Henry Fonda and Rose come in, the screenplay writer, to produce the film. This is the only film either of them has a producing credit, and they all get together, they shoot this, and when it comes out, after rigorous rehearsals and all that stuff being filmed in New York, it doesn't do all that well. Which is
really?
Yeah, this is kind of the interesting thing about reception, where the critics were there for it, but the box office wants it. The critics really liked it. They said it was the best drama of the year. It was a tour de force of story, performances, themes, and the problem with the finances. So this movie cost $300,000 to make, equivalent to about $3 million today.
Holy shit!
Exactly, and it made $2 million, which would make it $20 million today. But the thing is, it made most of that overseas, not in America. And it really got successful in America in like the 60s and 70s when it got on TV. That's when it found its audience. And it still didn't stop it from getting nominated for 3 Oscars. Best Director, Film, and Screenplay. It lost all of them. But it won overseas in Berlin, London, and Tokyo in all their like big prestigious international film festivals.
Oh,
it
really?
won all there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, for directors, for actors, and for film. It won all those kinds of awards that year. Just not here. Which is kind of weird when you think about it.
Yeah, that is kind of strange.
A lot of people credit it with, this was done in 1957.
Yeah.
And it was in black and white. By that time, films were being done in color.
Yeah.
And that was the new, like, craze. You know, oh, your big budget film, you know, that your shit has to be in color. It has to look nice. And this kind of has a TV production equality to it, where it feels like I'm watching it, it feels like a set on like the Twilight Zone, and it doesn't.
I got the same feeling. It looked like an extended Twilight Zone episode, you
exactly.
know?
And it doesn't help that half the guys in this are on Twilight Zone episodes. Like every last one of them, because I think besides Henry Fonda, all the rest of these actors were TV actors. Henry Fonda took a giant pay cut to make this movie.
Really?
Oh,
it
yeah.
Still cost them fucking $300,000 to make.
I mean, granted, they did, I think it was 5 weeks of rehearsal time, maybe more. No, I think it was 2 months of rehearsal time.
Jesus.
And then they shoot this and it took them 3 weeks.
God, wow. I mean, for how simple the movie seems, you know, they really put a lot of effort into it.
I mean, just to go on another fact about the production, Sidney Lumet, if you notice in the movie, it starts with the camera at this really wide angle lens and it's really high up and it shows all the characters really like together because they're all these men just thrown into a room. And as the movie progresses, the angle of the camera moves down and the focal length tightens up. So by the end of the movie, it's this long lens and it's really tight on these characters. So they're basically shot in singles for the last section of the movie. And it's one of those things where it's like, as the point is getting made, this mob mentality is getting focused onto this one guy who's the holdout. Whereas before it's Henry Fonda and this sea of, you know, these people against him, and then it comes down to Lee Cobb as the only holdout. And it's a really interesting, like, technical thing done in the movie.
Yeah.
But it also added, you know, probably like, that's why it's 3 fucking weeks long.
True.
Yeah.
Got to do all the reshootings and whatnot.
Yeah. But where do you want to start with this?
I don't know. Let's start where it starts in the movie with Henry Fonda.
Henry fucking Fonda.
He's so good in this movie.
So good.
All the like little things you can glean from him, from like the way he like, the way it's the way
you know,
he's
sits,
obviously,
for God's sakes.
Well, obviously he's like acting like he's thinking. You know, he's not actually like thinking through the case or whatever in his head, but he's acting like it. You know, and it just comes across so well that he's like, you know, kind of like mulling it over in his head, and he's like, you know, coming up with these new ideas, and you can like really like see it in the character's face and like believe it, you know. It's just so like clean and well acted without giving like the sterile feeling, you know.
It's also another thing, we've seen movies from like the 40s, 30s where the acting is, I'm be real, kind of wooden or kind of stilted.
Yeah.
This seems like overly naturalistic.
Yeah.
So natural.
It seems really natural, especially from like juror number 3.
Yeah.
He seems like really natural. I mean, the way he just like goes into it.
He just starts fucking yelling at these guys. Also, I love juror number 3. Like,
he acts really well.
Okay, Henry Fonda not getting an Oscar nod. Okay, life happens. Whatever. But this guy not getting a Best Supporting Actor nod blows my fucking mind. Like, he is so good in this movie.
He is really, really good in this movie. But, I mean, Best Supporting Actor,
Hey, Okay, who do you think anyone else here is as good as Cobb is, like, under Fonda?
I mean, I'm not sure about the acting, but the character, I really like the character of juror number 4, the guy with the glasses,
Oh, yeah.
How he just seems like, he's like the foil, I think, to Henry Fonda, in the kind of way where he's still, like, smart, and he's, taking in all these different points that Henry Fonda is making, but he's not one of these people with, like, this prejudice, like juror number 3 or, like, juror number, 10?
Yes.
Where they have these, like, prejudices of why they won't vote. But he's more of, like, calculating. He knows why he won't vote.
That's the thing. With juror number 4, it's just logic. Like, he's only there and he's like, I'm voting guilty because that is the logical thing with the evidence presented. And then Henry Fonda's like, well, there's doubt in these pieces of evidence, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yes, there's doubt in that one. I give you that. And in that one. But this last piece of evidence, the eyewitness testimony, it's rock solid. There's no doubt in my mind that this wouldn't work. Thus, logically, he must be guilty.
And then it all falls apart.
It all falls apart. And then we go back to juror number 3, who just refuses to break. It's one of those things where you hear him start going for it, and it's like he's stubborn, he's just angry, and then the whole thing with his son that we glean from it, where it's like, he's just angry his son left, and this is him kind of getting back at him.
Yeah.
That's what I'm kind of gleaming out of it.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically what I think it boils down to, is that, he's just really angry at his son, at, like, kids these days,
These kids.
They have no respect for their elders, and, in the movie, he doesn't have respect for his elders either.
Exactly.
But the thing, though, is that he just feels like, he's, like, so against, like, these kids these days. His son, like, basically is like, punched him when he was 16. I haven't seen him in 2 years, and he thinks that, these kids are liable to do anything. My own son punched me, for this kid from the slum to stab his own father. It's not that big of a leap.
Right.
One of those things, and it's just like he realizes that, it's not his son that's on trial.
Exactly. I think that's what it is. Because I know you mentioned that juror 3 and juror 10, they're racist prejudiced. But I think juror 10, like, that's his thing. He's actually just an open racist.
Yeah.
But juror 3, I don't know if he's
he's prejudiced. He's not racist.
Exactly. He's prejudiced. He's not racist. Whereas juror 10, I think that's an interesting thing. Each aspect of the jurors is a different aspect of kind of society.
Yeah.
In developing, it's like, okay, who actually decides who's guilty, who's innocent, and you choose 12 peers, right? None of these guys are like that kid, except maybe juror number 5.
Yeah,
because he was a slum kid.
He's like, I grew up in a slum, I lived across from the L train, like, all my life, and all these different things, I mean, even, like, juror number 12, who's, like, trying to, like, stir up business ideas in the jury,
He's over here.
He's trying to work.
Being Don Draper madmaning it up, but you're probably banging a secretary with a G&T.
And then, juror number 7 is, like, the everyman, he just wants to go to the ball game,
Yeah, which is interesting, because juror number 7, he's, like, the comic relief at the beginning of the movie, right?
Yeah.
And then as it goes on, and then when he finally gets confronted by juror number 11, and you're just like, I was laughing at you before, but now I'm just kind of seeing through it, is you're kind of a scumbag because you have a human life in your hands and a baseball game's more important.
He just doesn't care.
He just doesn't care. And I'm like, man, I feel bad for laughing at his jokes in the beginning, but he was funny. Also, I do apologize to everybody that we're calling just them juror number, because there's no names.
There's no, like, you could call them by, I don't know their real names, the actors' names, and, it's going to take me way too long to memorize that for this episode, so I just won't.
Yeah, but
so, while you're listening, you might as well pull up an IMDb and go check out Henry Fonda's other movies.
Yes.
They're also pretty good.
They're very good, very good. And that's a thing, because that's also a point. We never know their names, because they're
Yeah,
They're
we
just
don't
the
get
jurors.
that attached to any of the characters. I mean, we're supposed to obviously be following Henry Fonda through his like trials here, his trials in the trial.
Exactly. Trial of Socrates, right?
Through his trials here to like kind of convince everybody that like, hold on a minute, we have something to talk about here. It's not open and shut like you think it is. And we don't even know his name, you know? We don't know his name. We don't know the name of any of the other jurors.
We don't even know the name of the guy or the kid that's on trial.
Yeah, we don't know the name of the kid that's on trial. His father, the old man, the woman in the window.
We know nothing about anybody.
We don't know anything. Like, there's no kind of like background to any of them. You glean the background of these people like you would in real life.
Speaking about like the eyewitnesses, right? When they bring it, it's like, oh well, the man he had a limp. We never get a flash to them. We have no idea if they actually had a limp. It's something they're inferring, or the woman with the indentations in her nose. Oh, she had worn glasses, right? We never see that.
We never see it.
We're just taking it from what these guys are saying, and that's another thing is, even in a jury, even in like the court of law, the best you can get is a secondhand account.
Yeah, it's
so
amazing because it's like we're getting a secondhand account from these people. We never get to see the woman's indentations on her eyes. They could all maybe be misremembering, just like they suppose the woman is misremembering about seeing the boy murder his father through the window.
And
it's such an amazing like concept, you know. It's so like wild to think about it, and it's how naturally you glean all these different things about all these different characters is just like a wonderful experience because it's like it seems like something very real, you know. You don't know about juror number 3's son until he brings out the photo in the movie, and you kind of like, you know, the other jurors kind of pick up on that. You know, Henry Fonda, you know, at the end of the movie, everybody knows about it, and they all know why he's doing it. You know, they've all picked up on it.
And they're just sitting there, and they're just watching him, and they're just like, we know why you're doing this, but this kid is not your son. And then he finally breaks
and they don't even have to say anything. Everybody just looks at him, and he knows.
Okay, speaking of not saying something and it meaning so much, is when juror number 10 starts going on that tirade. He's like, these kids, you know these kids. They're always, these people, them, these.
Yeah.
Basically going as like prejudice rant or whatever, and everybody just quietly doesn't say anything, just gets up and kind of like just walks away from the table.
Yeah, moves away from the table, you know, faces the window, the coat rack, you know, sits on the bench on the side.
You know, and just kind of turns the chair away from him.
Has him go on his rant, you know, just like kind of tucker himself out. And then, you know, when he doesn't have anybody to listen to him, he just kind of stops, and the guy across from him, juror number 4, who's like, you know, the very calm, collected, logical guy, says like, are you done now? Like, sit down and don't speak again.
And that moment, and he doesn't speak for the rest of the movie.
He doesn't. I mean, when they ask for his vote, he just shakes his head.
And that right there is another thing, because there's so much going on in this movie thematically. I know there's themes of like prejudice and doubt and all that stuff, but here's a big one, all right, that I want to get a real answer from you. Is this movie an indictment or an endorsement of the American justice system?
Neither.
Neither?
Neither.
Neither.
It shows it as it is.
It shows it as is. Okay.
Is that not the answer you're expecting?
I was not expecting it. Okay, so
it's one of those things where it's like, you know, it's something that's so ingrained in like the American like justice system, like it's not going to change all that much, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you know, 12 people come in, 12 people come out, and there's only one way you can vote. You can vote either yes or guilty or not guilty. You know, there's no in between. Like,
I mean, technically there's with a hung jury, but
no
one ever wants that.
But the thing is, though, is that the hung jury just says, well, you get another one, you know?
We're going on again.
We go again. But sometimes, you know, cases get thrown out after a hung jury. They'll go, well, you know, the case wasn't that strong to begin with. I already got one. It's a
deadlock, you know, it happens.
These things happen, but it's I think it's both ways. It can go. You could see it both ways. It's an indictment in the fact that you could see it this way, right? Where Henry Fonda, like, blocked a case that was open and shut, right?
Yes.
Where it
on paper, open and shut.
On paper, open and shut. 2 witnesses. And, I mean, you know, if
Two witnesses, confession about he bought the weapon.
Yeah, he bought the weapon, you know, doesn't remember.
Crummy alibi.
Yeah, crummy alibi, bought the weapon. Saw by the woman across the street committing the murder. His downstairs neighbor. Yeah, his downstairs neighbor sees him run out the building. Him specifically run out the building right after he hears the murder happen, And then the kid shows back up to the apartment 3 hours later with barely any alibi and gets caught by the police right there. I mean, it seems open and shut, right? And you could kind of see it as like an indictment to where Henry Fonda could flip this case right back around, you know? It could be like, let's say, like a really shaky case, right? One that doesn't seem very open and shut at all. And you could see the reverse happening, you know, where 11 people think not guilty and one person thinks guilty.
And it flips the other way.
It flips the other way, you know? You could see it in an indictment that way to where it's like, you know, you could see the system is flimsy, right?
That's the thing, because when you're looking at it in that perspective, I was almost thinking like, you have this open and shut case, and you walk in, and 11 of these guys were ready to say, open and shut, why do we need to talk about it?
Yeah.
But there's that one guy that's like, well, we got to talk about it.
And this
if
could
Henry
be...
Fonda wasn't there, he would just gone to jail.
Yeah. And you could
the...
see this as the endorsement, right? The other side of the coin, to where it's endorsing the system because, you know, this is why we have a lawyer for each side, 12 jurors. I mean, there was actually 14 jurors in this movie, if you paid attention.
Yeah.
They had 2 alternates.
Exactly. Yeah.
But so they have 12 jurors, you know, and it's kind of an endorsement to it where, you know, it has like enough of a safety net, you know, to where, you know, this one person kind of like comes up with the idea of like, hey, I don't think he's guilty, you know, and it's able to progress to where it should be, you know, to where at least logically over the course of this movie with this case,
yes,
where, you know, it should be, you know, that everything seems reasonably doubtful, you know?
There's just enough there to say there's a possibility, there's something
a good
wrong.
Possibility.
A good possibility. I think that's another thing. I think people watch this movie and they get the idea of it's like, oh, I get called for jury duty and I'm gonna be Henry Fonda, right? I'm gonna flip the case, but I'm like, 9 times out of 10 cases are not this flimsy.
They're not.
Most of the time, it either is generally open and shut, and you're basically just deciding, okay, how open and shut is this really? I mean, from most of the law stuff I have gleaned from the interwebs. You know, I come on, internet lawyers here. But
this is, you know, like, this is why there's like also stuff like jury selection, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, we don't have to go into like the whole, you know,
American justice system.
Although,
movie podcast.
Here's another thing though about the movie is that a reason why it might have done really well overseas is because it's a insight into the American justice system.
Actually, so this is a fun fact. It's not about this movie, but it's on the same line as that. So we're going to watch a film on the AFI 100 list. It's called Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Basic premise of that movie is Jimmy Stewart. He's doing a filibuster, right? To block a bill that, if passed, is going to destroy a nature reserve, right? That he set aside to do like charity work for the state. And he's doing this filibuster, all this other stuff. And people in Russia imported the film and were using it as a propaganda piece to say, you see this here? This is the corruption in the U.S. government, right? But when the people watched it, they said, no, this is an endorsement showing how one man can stand against the government and get good done in the world. This is kind of in that line. It's one man standing against a jury of, well, his peers, trying to just prove the point that we can't decide a man's fate if we are not sure. We can't send a man to... What is it? I'd rather see 1,000 guilty men walk free than send one innocent man to jail.
Which I'm not sure if I agree with that statement, but that's a whole other thing.
That's a whole other philosophical
that's a whole
question.
other philosophical question. Yeah, but
what about 10? 6.5?
The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and the one.
Look,
got him.
God damn it! It's all comes back to Star Trek.
Fucking got him.
All right,
but
yeah.
Like with this movie, just like I mean, we can get into like all the small ways the characters like interact with each other. I mean, like when Henry Fonda turns his first juror, right? When he turns over juror number 9 to his side, juror number 9, he's like this older, kind of like peaceful kind of guy, you know, who's just kind of like level-headed, kind of being like, well, you know, what the thing he's convinced by is not any of the evidence, you know, that like Henry Fonda's like overturned. It's more of
his
like
conviction. Yeah,
he's like, you know what? This guy's got a point. We got to think about this, you know. And they had like this vote at the beginning where Henry Fonda was, you know, like, okay, if we'll take a vote now, and if all 11 of you agree guilty, then I'll turn my vote to guilty and we'll be done with this. And juror number 9 sees that as kind of like Henry Fonda being like, will anybody hear me, you know? And juror number 9 goes, well, yeah, I'll hear you. I'll
not guilty to just see where this goes.
Yeah, I'm not guilty to see where this goes, and I'll give you your platform to like speak on. He's like, you know, this guy's got a point. You know, I'm not necessarily saying that any of the evidence or the case is wrong, but that we just should give it more time to, you know, give it more time to like to mull it over, to like have it stew a little bit in our minds, you know, to like really think it through. You know, this is a young man's life on the line, 18-year-old, you know, first-degree murder, straight to the electric chair.
I keep going back to the thing I think juror number 11 keeps saying is, can you live with having the blood of a man on your hands? You will send him off to the electric chair. Can you do that? And juror number 3 is like, I absolutely can, because he's guilty. Like, and that's enough for him to just push him through. But everybody else is like, I don't. They get that second thoughts where it's like, he needs to be really guilty though.
Yeah, like it needs to be beyond a reasonable doubt.
It's always an interesting phrase, beyond a reasonable doubt.
What's reasonable?
Because doubt's easy to get, but what is the reasonable part of the doubt?
Yeah, what is beyond that?
Right? It's like, I saw Randy going in and rob a liquor store, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I saw it like through my car window, then through the shop car window, and he was running pretty fast and in and out. Was it really Randy? Like, if I gave that testimony,
I smoke a bowl like halfway.
I smoked a bowl halfway through the crime. I don't know.
I don't know, man. Like,
but is that a good enough testimony where it's like, I saw him through my car window, through the shop window, and I saw him run up, rob, like steal stuff out of the register and run out? Is that enough? Is that good enough testimony?
Was he wearing a mask? You know, did he have like a shirt with a large collar to obscure his face, a hat?
How many posters were on the window?
To obscure your vision?
If you ever been to a liquor store in LA, there's a lot of posters on a lot of windows.
Your car have tinted windows?
Was it at night? What time of day was it? You have your headlights on?
Is there a fog? There's so many things, you know?
Every little detail of that one, you know, quote unquote mini testimony, there's thousands of variables that change whether or not, well, I can doubt that.
Where's the line of where it's reasonably doubtful, you know? Is it the fog? Is it the posters? How many posters does it take to hit the reasonable doubt marker? You know, does it 4?
I'm going about like 6. Six posters, you're walking in my book.
It doesn't matter on the poster's size.
If it's those 12 by 12 Budweiser posters on the liquor store down the street, you get 2 of those, you're walking in my book. You're a free man.
But it's just like, you know, all these little things build up, you know? It's just like the old man. Did he really get to his door in 15 seconds? I mean, they timed it. It said about 40 seconds.
Yeah, but it's another thing where it's like, even juror number 3 said he wasn't walking that slow. Again, Henry Fonda's like, I'll walk a little bit faster, whatever. But it's another thing where it's like, how can you mimic a bum leg?
How do you mimic a bum leg? And, I mean, was the guy in like a panic, you know? Did he run as fast as he could, you know, or did he kind of meander there? They're talking about a guy who seems like to be like pretty old with a bum leg from a stroke.
Yeah.
You know, did he really get to his front door in 15 seconds? It's like 50 feet, you know, 54 feet or something like that.
Well, the other thing is you have the woman who saw the kid through the window where it's like, oh, she was wearing glasses, and they make a point where,
well, you don't wear glasses. Well, you don't wear glasses to bed.
Yeah, you don't wear glasses to bed. But then they ask, maybe she's farsighted. Maybe they're just reading glasses.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know what kind of glasses she wears. We know that she wears some kind of glasses, but we don't know what kind. They could have been sunglasses.
Right?
But she has the indents on her nose that she wears glasses. And this could mean that she wears just normal glasses, like juror number 4, juror number 2. Juror number 12. They all wear glasses.
They know.
This is what gets juror number 4, is that he understands, like, she probably couldn't have seen him all that well. 60 feet away.
Through an L train.
Through an L train. You know, while she's trying to go to sleep without glasses on. I don't know. Seems pretty fishy to me. Flips him and
seems pretty sus. I would send that shit right out of the pod bay door.
Flips juror number 12, who had just flipped back over to guilty.
Yeah.
On the same testimony.
Yeah.
But under scrutinization, flips him back to not guilty. And then all that leaves is juror number 3. And you know, it's not even about the kid on the stand. It's about his own kid.
Such a good performance. How do you not win an Oscar for that? That's the Oscar clip.
Well, because the movie's not very flashy in any way. Like,
it really isn't. Like, that's something we should talk about is, okay, where did you see this for the first time? Most people I know see this in, like, English class. High school, right?
Yeah.
You saw it in English class?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna guess this movie made a much bigger impact on you than the other 12 horny teenagers in the room.
Well, yeah. I mean, I loved this movie. As soon as I saw it, I was like, wow, that was so good. That was like amazing. Use my catchphrase. So good.
So good.
But Cielo makes fun of me for saying that in Ben to Her now.
Oh, really?
Yes.
She's the one who keeps listening to that episode, and she's just like, why does he keep saying that?
Because apparently I said it like 15 times that episode.
Best part, I cut out like another 15 of you saying that for time. But that's a thing. So I think a lot of people, when they watch this now, it's in high school or English classes, and let's be honest, most movie you watch in high school, you're not really going to dig.
Yeah.
90% of the time, you're not going to pay attention to playing your phone.
I watched Don Quixote.
Well, yeah, that was in Mr. Casillas' class, and that man was a saint.
He was a saint.
Yes. But this movie is not flashy at all. Black and white. You can argue it's kind of, maybe not slow, but methodically paced.
Yeah, it's methodically paced.
And there's no action. There's not a fight scene. There's a
little bit of action.
There's a little bit of action.
But, like, not like action. Not like action with a capital A. Not like Arnold Schwarzenegger shows up or anything.
Yeah.
Like, it's got, like...
No one runs in this movie.
Yeah.
I'll put it like that.
Nobody runs in this movie.
There's no running. Somebody
almost gets stabbed.
Juror 3 was not going to stab Henry Fonda.
Are you sure? It looked like he was going to stab him, and then everybody thought he was going to stab him. Everybody's like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
No. You know why Juror 3 wasn't going to stab Henry Fonda? Because that would have made Henry Fonda right.
True.
Juror 3 would never have done it.
True.
That's how I know. I'm like, Juror 3 would never have done it.
And there's not like there's a lot of special effects in this movie. I mean, there's some rain outside of a window, but like, come on now.
Rain. And that's another thing. Like, you can even judge the whole movie on that, where you can tell this was a pretty lower budget, definitely a TV like crew. This feels like a studio. It looks, I don't want to say it looks cheap, but it definitely
do kind of look cheap though.
It do kind of look cheap.
It do kind of look cheap.
It's the same thing where, like we said earlier, it looks like it's in a Twilight Zone episode.
It does.
It looks like it's an episode of like Perry Mason or something like that. But then it's the whole thing where the best part about a movie is the story and the performances, and everything else.
This is like a huge like exemplar, like a crowning jewel of all you need is a good story and performances. Like, this is like the crowning jewel of that. There's nothing fancy here.
It's anti-fancy. Everything is plain in this. No one's wearing like a wacky outfit to like catch your attention in the first 5 minutes.
I mean, the most wacky thing anybody wears is Jertov's glasses. They look like they've been bejeweled or whatever.
Randy, it was the style, man. It was getting the Buddy Hollies going.
Like, thick rimmed glasses. But it's like, we haven't even talked about like the heat.
Yes, that's another thing. Because it's in a studio, but you feel the heat in this movie. And this is probably why it took 3 weeks. Part of the plot of the movie is that it's the hottest day of the year. Right.
While this is all happening. By the way, it rains later on in the day, so it's going to be hot and sticky.
So bad. Worst part.
Awful.
It'll feel like Florida.
Except where are these people supposed to be? Like,
New York.
New York, yeah.
Right, where everybody's from. New York.
It's New York.
New York.
God. But, and this is kind of like one of these things that's used to kind of convey this, like, heated up tension in the room, because it's like, everybody's literally hot and uncomfortable. The fan doesn't work for like the first half of the movie.
Exactly.
Until it starts raining and then they turn the lights on.
Well, until it becomes 6-6, it becomes even, and then the fan starts working when they turn the lights on.
And it starts raining.
Symbolism. The rain will make you clean.
It'll wash away your sins. All that good stuff.
Right.
But anyways, it really like helps portray the tension, how everybody's getting like all hot and bothered, like physically hot and bothered because it's hot and they're sweating and it's about to rain outside, so the humidity's like off the charts.
And they're having like this really
heated
in a different way conversation. Yes. And that's probably why this movie took like 3 weeks to shoot, because you notice how each of the actors' wardrobe subtly changes throughout the film. Where it's like, you get like, obviously like the pit stains. People start dabbing their fucking forehead and shit. Like,
yeah, have like the one guy has like multiple rags that he like throws out one rag. That thing is like, drenched. It's worthless to him, and goes and gets another one from his coat.
yeah.
Or like, people are like, they're like stripping down the pieces of their outfit, and then you get
They're taking the armor off.
Yeah. The one guy, juror number 7, where at one point in the movie he's just freaking drenched. His whole like shirt is just wet all around the chest.
It went from a nice white to a dark black.
And then you have like this other form of symbolism with juror number 4, where somebody has to lean over and ask him, "Do you ever sweat?" No.
But he does sweat when Henry Fonda finally gets to him and it's like, "All right, you're questioning his alibi, right?
Yes.
What did you do Monday?" "I went out to dinner." "What did you do Tuesday?" "I played bridge." "Thursday?" "Me and my wife went to the movies." "What movie you see?" "I saw this movie." "What was the second bill?"
It was some this and this and this, and then juror number 2 is like, "That's not the name of the movie. The name of the movie is this."
"Oh, sorry. Well, okay, who was in it?" I don't know. It was a B picture." "Okay. Are you under pressure for that interrogation?"
No.
Beat a sweat.
Yeah, and then he
Oscar
starts
clip.
sweating. He's like, "Damn it, he's right." This kid, supposedly comes home after, having a fight with his father. Comes home to find his father dead, murdered.
Cops pick him up right then and there and just start grilling him.
And doesn't remember the movie he just went to see. And juror number 4 is not under any pressure here.
He's not an 18-year-old kid
Who just found his father dead in his apartment.
who's about to get beat up by 2 Irish cops.
Yeah, he's about to get beat up by 2 Irish cops.
Ugh. It's one of those things where there's so many moments like that in the movie where somebody hard fast on the, like, this is the piece of evidence I will not bend on because this is the evidence that I feel locks the case.
And then somebody goes, "Well, think about it this way." And he goes, "Oh, you're right. You're right." It's like the whole thing
just
with
enough there.
With the stabbing, right? Where it's like, stabbed in a
Downward motion.
Downward motion, into the chest. And then juror number 5, it's like, well, that's not how anybody uses a switchblade. You stab them underhanded like this.
You never go overhand.
You never go overhand.
You have to switch the blade over. It's a switch. You can't just open it like that.
Yeah, and then I think that flips like juror numbers like 6 and 7.
Definitely flips juror number 2.
Yeah, flips juror number 2, and they're like, he's right. If this kid, supposedly this kid with like this rap sheet of, getting caught with like a knife and whatnot.
Being in knife fights.
Quote unquote, he's handy with a knife, as they say. Well, then why would he use a switchblade like that? Nobody uses a switchblade like that, especially somebody who uses switchblades.
I think the old man downstairs did it.
Shut the fuck up.
Well,
it's one of those things also where it's like, well, if the kid didn't do it, who the fuck did it?
That's the thing I get at this movie, where this movie revels in doubt and not answers.
Yeah.
Like hard answers.
You don't get any answers in the movie.
Because they always, the jurors, 3, 4, all of them keep bringing up, well, these are the facts. But thing is, in this movie, they show, well, facts are malleable.
Yeah.
Some facts aren't even facts. They're just stories that lonely old men tell to feel important, like juror number 9 points out. Or things where it's like, well, maybe they thought it was the truth. They kind of put 2 different things together and kind of, like, assume that's what happened. Like the woman did when she gave her testimony. There's all these things where facts can be malleable in this instance, but we want the truth. And I think that's another thing. People tend to look at this movie as being, it's about truth. It's not about truth.
It's not about truth at all.
It's about doubt. Reasonable doubt. Like, that's the thing. The justice system isn't based on convicting a man on what is true and what is a lie. It is basing it on, is he innocent or guilty beyond reasonable doubt? That's the thing. If there's just a little bit of doubt,
the thing though isn't innocent. They don't proclaim anybody innocent at a trial. Just not guilty.
That's the point. Man, what is it? It's innocent until proven guilty.
Innocent until proven guilty. It's one of these things that like people. It's kind of, I don't want to get like too political here, but it's one of those things that like people have like kind of forgotten over the years, where it's like innocent until proven guilty. Everybody kind of gets this mob mentality going like very quickly. It's like somebody gets accused of something online, and then everybody gets up on like Twitter or something all about it. It's like let them have their day in court.
Well, that's the thing. That's the 11 other jury members.
Yeah,
we need more Henry Fondas in the world.
people that can like sit there and go like, wait a minute, like let's think about this rationally, give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's see where this takes us. If they're guilty, they're guilty. I won't have any qualms about it. Henry Fonda says that in the movie, where it's just like, I don't.
If you can prove to me he's guilty beyond reasonable doubt, find one piece of evidence, I'll give it to you.
I'll give it to you.
Give it to you happily.
But it's just, let's think about it rationally. Let's go by one. Each piece of evidence, each testimony. Even like the knife itself. It's not a unique knife. Close. But it's not.
Yeah. And that's the thing, the pawn shop dealer said he'd never seen another one like it. And Henry Fonda literally just buys another one, 2 blocks away from the kid's house?
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, so does that mean the pawn shop dealer is lying?
It's not the same pawn shop.
Well, I know it's not the same pawn shop, but maybe it was was that pawn shop dealer maybe inflating the truth? Maybe he's like, I've never seen one in my shop before, but
exactly.
I bought it off of a guy who brought it in, Maybe he's like, I've seen him around the neighborhood. Well, that's the thing. Some people just inflate the truth a little bit, or they'll tell you,
Fuck you.
Yeah, or tell you the quote unquote basic truth. It's basically what happened.
That's not what we're looking for, you people.
Exactly. And this movie kind of gets at those people. Me.
Yeah.
Whatever. I would be terrible. Never ask me to be a character witness for any of your
That's
juries.
not like I'm going to ask you. The police are going to ask you.
They should not. They should know to just walk away.
God.
But yeah, so
please,
12 Angry Men.
If you have my brother on your jury, ask for a new fucking juror.
Randy.
We got any alternates?
Alrighty, I'll take the Henry Fonda role. I will get you off.
Yeah, what if that's not what we need here?
Dude, here's the backstage drama to this. Henry Fonda was a plant by the defense to get the kid off. He was the ringer.
He could have been a plant. I mean, that's what jury selection's for. It's supposed to try and get people on your side. But the thing is that both sides get a little bit of that, The prosecution got juror number 3, got juror number 10. Basically, I mean,
yeah.
like juror number 3, he's got a bad rap with his kid, Juror number 10 thinks that the defendant is one of them.
As soon as he says he's one of them, you
already know. You already know.
Even
though the kid, because we do get to see the kid for for just a little bit.
A single shot.
And you're not sure what kind of them is supposed to be.
It's really vague. I'm like, he looks like a white kid, I guess.
I don't know. He looks like maybe Jewish
or Italian,
or maybe Italian.
I don't.
Is he supposed to be like Puerto Rican?
Is he Irish?
I have no idea. Like the kid is very nondescript.
He looks like a young Joe Pesci from Goodfellas.
But it's just kind of like, what kind of they is this guy supposing to? But the thing is that you don't need to know.
You just need to know that he is prejudiced.
Yes.
And that
it doesn't need to be against any specific thing. You already know.
But that's just a thing. Okay, so this movie is great, right?
Amazing.
So
simple, so elegant, so crisp, clean. Everything about it works. There's nothing wrong with the movie.
Surprised it's down so low.
Honestly, yeah. For what it is, this is an incredible movie.
So, I'm just gonna get to that question.
We'll get to this, round back to the movie some more, and then probably see it out.
So this comes in at 87. Why so low? Is it just because it's not very flashy?
I think it's because it's simple.
Do you think it's because it feels more like a stage play than an actual film?
Yeah, I think it's because it's because there's nothing flashy about it. Like, this is one of the strengths of the movie, but it's also one of the things where it can kind of lean on it, or it can kind of crutch itself up against it. But it shows Sidney Lumet's ability to make something out of not a lot.
Yeah.
And it's one of these things where it's if I was a film student and I saw 12 Angry Men, I'd be like, I could make that.
Yeah.
I could make that. Just get some people together with a good script and just a room and a camera. I could do that.
Yeah. That's the crazy thing. It goes back to what I was saying. Great performances, great story, everything else is window dressing. And this is pretty much on point. You have great actor. There's not a bad performance or a bad actor in this entire film.
No.
And then you have this script that I would argue is a masterpiece. This script is insanely good.
every little thing everybody says in this movie like adds up to something.
Exactly. And I mean, I guess going on personal information, because when I say, oh, this is like a stage play, I mean, we've seen this performed on stage. Our sister played the Henry Fonda role in the local production of 12 Angry Jurors because they couldn't call it 12 Angry Men because half the production was girls. So
it was a theater production.
It was a theater production in Southern California. But yeah, and it's just this almost timeless kind of story because we watched it now in the year of our Lord 2020 something, and I think it still holds up.
It still holds up, and it's not like the same kind of like justice system that they had back then. I mean, it was a little different back then, but I mean, it's very similar to it as today.
That's the other thing. They don't get bogged down in the justice system. It's just guilty, not guilty, and reasonable doubt. The super foundational stuff of how do you convict somebody.
Yeah. How do you go about doing something like that? How do you go about, really deciding something that's going to like weigh on this person for the rest of their life? But suppose the kid did do it. Because we don't know. Kid might have done it.
He might have done it.
He might have done it. But the movie is far too low on the AFI list.
Right.
Even for like, because there are other movies where it's like you get both the like good story with good performances and the window dressing.
Yeah.
You do get those movies. It's like 12 Angry Men shows that you don't need the third thing.
And the other thing about this is it's also just a testament to just how a great a filmmaker Sidney Lumet was. This was his first film.
His first feature film.
Feature film. And then he goes on and he does Dog Day Afternoon. I believe he did Serpico.
Yes, he did Serpico.
I mean, the guy was a great director.
These three are very different movies.
Very different movies. He also did the prestige drama Murder on the Orient Express, the 1970s version, I think.
Uh-huh.
But that's the thing. He had nothing except... Granted, he had Henry Fonda, which... That's a big get.
Yeah, but the thing, though, is that he only had Henry Fonda. All the rest of the cast are all TV actors.
See,
and they all gave great performances.
See, that's a thing. I think...
It's not like Henry Fonda's performance here is like so much higher than everybody else's either.
I would argue he's great in this movie, but I don't even know if he's the best actor in the movie.
Yeah, I could see him not being the best actor in this movie. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like, you have Henry Fonda, he's this like larger than life type of guy.
Well, it's not even that. It's like this is kind of weird because I don't know how many people nowadays know just how big of a movie star Henry Fonda was.
He was big.
He was like, what category would you put him in? Like, he was like Tom Hanks of his day. He always played the hero. When he played against type, I think once in his career, when he did Once Upon a Time in the West for Sergio Leone back, God, I think in like the late 60s, maybe in the 70s. And that was like the only time people were like, how can you do this?
How could you have Henry Fonda play the villain and Sergio Leone is like, watch me?
Basically, Chad Leone coming in. But that's like the thing. Imagine, oh God, I kind of want to see this remade, but with Tom Hanks, but I'm like, it wouldn't be as good.
Nah, it would not be as good.
Actually, okay, fun fact, they did actually remake this, but William Friedkin directed the remake.
That doesn't sound so bad.
Randy's like, I'm back in. he get Gene Hackman.
I mean, I kind of doubt it could really hold a
candle to this.
Well,
that's the crazy thing. It's such a simple story, and as long as you get great actors, do you think this is the best version of this kind of story we could ever get?
Of like a people just kind of sitting around and talking over an issue?
Yes, an important issue kind of like this.
Probably. This is probably like, if not the best, like top 3. Like there's not a lot of movies like this where... Also, this is another thing, like, where I'm, like, kind of predisposed to like, really enjoy this movie.
Because it's just a long conversation and you read philosophy books for fun.
Well, here's the thing, though, is, like, this is just, like, a long, like, dialogue between all these characters. Like, you could call this movie a dialogue, right?
Yeah.
Because that's all that really happens in the movie, is just the other characters, like, talking over this issue, right? And it's like, I actually enjoyed, like, not, I didn't like them, but I enjoyed them. Right? Like full on enjoyer mode with platonic dialogues, just people just talking over issues and like coming to conclusions and, going back and forth over arguments. it's one of these things where it's just like, this is natural. This is like how people do these things. And it's one of those things in movies that sometimes things happen. It's not very natural.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's just like, well, nobody would really do that, you know? Everything in this movie, even the like more fantastical things that happens in the movie, like when juror number 10 goes on his rant and everybody kind of like walks up and turns away from him, it's not that fantastical, right?
The other thing, to go to the naturalistic point of this, because that where everybody gets up and walks away and no one just like, yeah, that's the fantastical element. The most natural instance is when Henry Fonda and juror number 1 are talking to each other. And he just is like, oh, it's pouring rain. And he just kind of goes on this story about, it's like, the rain. I had this football game last year. It was raining just like this. We had this kid. He was an ox, going through the game. And he's just doing this. And it's very natural. Yeah. And it's a conversation I could argue I've had before. You're waiting at a light or something. You're waiting at a bus stop. And a guy just like strikes up a conversation while you're waiting. And that's that kind of conversation. And it's weird because
it's not about anything.
It's not about anything. And there's all these bits of dialogue that happen where you're like, it's not really about anything. I got this ball game to go at noon. You're a Boston fan? Come on. What are you even doing here? And that's
it's like you're getting hit in the head by a crowbar twice a day.
Exactly. And that's the thing where it already sets up a dynamic of I'm against you for a superficial reason. Yeah. And that's kind of a thing where a lot of the jurors are against juror number 5 for superficial reasons.
Yeah, because he's a slum kid, he doesn't know nothing.
Exactly. And he's like, you ain't got a right to talk to me like that, all right? I'm a grown man. I ain't no kid, Yeah, I came there, but I ain't a bad guy. And it's so good. It's all good. Even the dialogue where you're like, oh, that's just like throwaway dialogue for character. No,
it's never throwaway in this movie. Every little thing means something. Even the dialogues that are about nothing, like they add to the theme of the movie. It's like the juror number 1 when he's talking about the ball game. He ends that whole thing with being like, that was murder. It's mean that like the rain murdered the game, right? Yeah. But also being like, it was murder. Like we are talking about murder in this courtroom, Like
and the other thing, they had the kid who was this ox, hard-headed, just plowing through all this stuff, alluding to you're Henry Fonda. You're just plowing through these lines of things. You're really breaking down all the quote unquote facts of the case and really getting at what's going on. And the rain's coming down. It's
murder.
It's murder.
That's what we're really talking about. It's so good. Every little thing in this movie works, and it's so natural, and everything just like progresses in such an even way. It's not like the movie just like ramps up really quickly. Like it's not an action movie. Like everything, like it's slow and methodical, but without being like too slow. Like some other movies. Looks at the poster of 2001: A Space Odyssey.
You can eat a dick, sir. 2001: Space Odyssey is a masterpiece.
Way too slow.
You gotta get into it, man. But also that's another thing. This is a tight 90, which I appreciate.
Yes.
We've had a couple of 2-hour.
Well, especially since we're like looking at the BFI list, BFI has a 9-hour, a 7-hour movie. Oh man, I can't wait.
It's gonna be good.
Can't wait for the 7-hour movie. Oh god.
But that's the thing.
A tight 90 minutes tells the whole story without leaving anything out that it's supposed to. Like it. The whole thing, though, is that this movie does kind of leave everything out.
Exactly.
How do you make a movie that leaves everything out? All the hard facts and details, it leaves out.
It only gleams little bits of things as it goes along for you as the audience to process, like the jurors are processing. It's all right. I'm just gonna throw it out there. So, up to this point, I think this might be the best movie we've watched so far.
You think so?
I think because my hard and fast was Goodfellas. And then, I kind of like gave into Sophie's Choice a little bit. But I think this is probably actually the best movie we've watched so far. In terms of like just filmmaking, story, performance.
I'm glad to say that. Like that's one of those things where it's like I'm really happy that we've watched a new movie on the list, and it's just like, yeah, way better than everything we've seen before. It's good to get to that point to where it's like, what? I think we've hit a new milestone on the list.
Yeah, we finally got through the ones where it's like, okay, these are on here for historical reasons. Yankee Doodle Dandy it's on there for a very historical.
These movies are kind of like arguably better than one another. Yeah, we can split hairs and whatnot, but we get to 12 Angry Men, and we're like, this movie's really good from end to end. Everything's so tight. Nothing gets left out.
There's nothing bad in this. There's not a single thing that I could honestly critique without just being petty.
Yeah. I mean, what could you even critique while being petty? The rain looks kind of fake.
Honestly, the rain looks fine enough. I mean, maybe the fact it looks a little cheap. It looks like a TV production, but the thing is, you stop caring about you stop caring as soon as
another thing
the characters start talking.
It also like plays into the movie's benefit because it makes it a more realistic jury room, right?
Yeah,
the jury room's not going to be expensive looking. You're not going to have high back chairs, nice mahogany table,
cigars laying around, bottle of scotch brought in by the cocktail waitress.
Yeah, it's a freaking jury room. They want you in and out there as fast as possible.
They make it uncomfortable on purpose.
Yeah, it's like it's supposed to be like the bare minimum. It's the what's it called? The courthouse is trying to do whatever they can on the budget.
Any last things you want to say about this one?
Well, I don't know. It's just like I'm so fascinated by like the whole fact that it's a movie about gleaming things, about like you don't know what happens, and it's so much in movies where it's like they just show you, right? Like they show you what happens, and
they hit you over the head with the point of the movie.
Yes, exactly. But this movie kind of just like it shows you that you could make a movie with none of that, with none of the important things actually being shown to the audience. We don't get to see the kid murder or not murder his father. We don't get to see him run down the stairs, go to the movies, come back and be interrogated. We don't
see none of the witnesses. We only see one bit of evidence. We never see the lawyers. We never see a closing argument.
The only things we see is the jurors, the alternate jurors, the kid, the judge, and then like the
bailiff.
Yeah, the bailiff. Yeah, those are the only people seen through the entire movie. The cast has like 19 people total.
Yeah, and fun fact beyond that, the judge out of all those people is the only one that has lines that are not the jurors.
I think the bailiff says some stuff at the beginning.
He might.
I think he says
he says this way, gentlemen.
He says like no. He says alternate jurors, you're dismissed. All right, this way, gentlemen. That's all he says. That's all he says in the movie. And you can also, another thing you can glean from the movie is like the judge. At the very beginning when he's like kind of like telling the jury how to act. It seems like he himself thinks the kid's guilty. He's so
nonchalant.
He's
not even looking at it. He's playing with something on his table.
Yeah, he's just kind of like giving the spiel that he's given a million times, and he's just like this seems like an open and shut case to him. And he's like, okay,
How surprised do you think he was when he got the not guilty back?
He was probably like, really?
No shit.
All right, not guilty. You're free to go.
All right, here's the keys. Good day.
Good day, sir. All right, next case. It's so good. Like, it's one of those things where it's like there's nothing left behind, with the movie. It's like sometimes like things get lost in the movie, right? Where it's like, these kind of like side plots kind of get left out,
Yeah, or it's like they get started and then they're finished like the next scene and they're like, that wasn't really necessary or satisfying. Or they get started and they peter out halfway through and then they're like, oh, that's for the sequel. Or it's like,
Yeah, or it's stuff where it's like it gets ended at the end of the movie, right? This like side plot, but it's not in a satisfying way or anything. You're just kind of like, they just start that to like, gum up traction or something to like make something out of nothing so the movie could move on,
to give you something in the middle of the movie so you don't get bored.
Yeah, exactly. It's there's nothing that's kind of like overlooked in this movie, and it's something where it's like you something will get overlooked if you don't make a movie in only 2 rooms or 3 rooms or whatever this movie's made in.
This movie, it's not generally shown in like film schools, but
really,
not generally. It's one of those things where in film schools, their point is to show you like foreign films, like expose you to like exterior media kind of thing, and you only really watch a couple of American films that are considered very important, or unless you're taking something very specific. But this is taught in like high schools. This should be taught in high schools in just like in like storytelling. This is a great story, and then I think this movie should even be like analyzed in like legitimate like curriculum in schools. Because I think you just understand more about like storytelling about our society just talking about this movie.
Like, it also shows people that are like, with like a creative edge, right? Who are like trying to be writers or, they're trying to write books or screenplays or, all these different things.
Anything.
That it's just like you could start with nothing. see where it takes you. You know, you have 12 jurors in a room. Well, what was the case about? It was about a murder. Well, do we know anything else past that? No.
There's the drama.
There's the drama. You know, like, to have them decide, you know, what's going to happen. They don't know very much about this. Like, the audience doesn't know anything. You know, the jurors barely know more than that.
All right, so...
yeah, I could go on a rant all day about how this movie is just so perfect.
Can I get one more quote for the...
So good.
That's Randy's catchphrase. We're going to put it on a t-shirt. You can buy it on our Patreon if we ever get one. Oh, God. But yeah, so... this movie, two giant thumbs up. 2 big
thumbs up. Watch this movie. Watch it again. Think about all the little things that are said throughout the movie. All the little gestures all the characters do.
I don't know. Looking at this movie, I just keep going back to the fact that it should be going up higher. This is probably going to be one that's going to carry up pretty far with both of us when we do our next milestone episode. But next week, we're finally getting Platoon. We're getting our war movie.
I'm pretty excited for Platoon, I'm not gonna lie. It's an even 2 hours, dead even 2 hours.
Even 2 hours, directed by Oliver Stone. It's a Vietnam War film. Oliver Stone, I believe he served 2 or 3 tours in Vietnam.
Holy shit, really?
Yeah, and in like 2 or 3 tours in like as a Marine or Army in the field. Like he had like combat. So, you know, I think he got like a Purple Heart or some other stuff, but yeah, served there, comes back to America, goes to NYC Film School, gets taught by Martin Scorsese as his film teacher, and then this is the movie, you know, he makes in 1986, I believe, after he wrote the script for Scarface.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was a screenwriter before he started making films. Yeah, he wrote the script for Scarface, and then a couple years later, he makes Platoon. I believe he's already making films, but we're going to get into that. But yeah, very excited to see this.
I'm excited to see Platoon. I don't think it's going to be as good as 12 Angry Men, and like, you know, the technical aspects of it being like, you know, just like very tight and like very, you know, just like everything meaning something, you know,
very compact,
very compact, you know, where it's like you could hardly slice through the thing with a butcher's knife.
Yeah,
but I think it's going to be a lot like more like visually interesting.
And also, it has Willem Dafoe.
Ooh, that's going to be good.
He's like, all right, I'm back in. This might be better. We'll get back to it.
I love Willem Dafoe, especially in Lighthouse, obviously.
So good, so good. But, yeah, everybody, if you wanted to catch up with that, listen to more of our stuff, you can catch us on every podcasting platform you can find us, and that is all under the Film Odyssey, or the Film Odyssey podcast. You can also find us on our YouTube channel, In the Frame, where you can find this podcast, as well as one other podcast, the Film Club podcast, which I do with my girlfriend, where we talk about nostalgia picks, good movies, bad movies, weird movies, fun movies, and just shit we find in the Blockbuster bargain bin. But yeah, other than that, any last words, Randy?
Not guilty.
I still think you do. All right, everybody, have a good night.
You know them.
Jesus.
They.
All right, everybody, have a good night.